Have you ever focused on transcending your human condition? Have you ever thought what it might be? Have you ever thought that you are beyond your body? More, you are beyond your mind. Have you ever thought what drives you? Have you ever seen yourself from different perspective than you see yourself on daily basis? As if you are playing third-person perspective. Have you ever wondered why sometimes you are stuck? Especially considering those negative emotions that we might have. Have you considered why sometimes it's so effortless to work on permanent basis on something you love? Have you ever considered that we as human beings have some special mission that we are on all the time? Welcome to Transcending the Human Condition series. From fear, struggles, guilt and suffering to true self in courage, love, joy and peace. I'm Jacob Roseński and I will be your host in this episode that is related to something that has been working for some time already for me. And this something is what is this human condition, why we are how we are, why we are human beings, how I landed in this area. As you see, there were a couple of angles for that. Usually, if you consider situations, those situations just trigger pain or trigger pleasure. For me, there was lots of fear, anxiety, anger that I needed to work on. I didn't know how it got stuck in me, but I needed to do something about this. And I started to investigate all those possibilities that exist. I started to read those books, started to think, yeah, what is this intuition thing? Additionally, I started to see that when I convert some of those, when I have enough courage to just counteract this talkative mind that always talks me out of situations, there is some pleasant energy behind that is driving me. I don't fall asleep, getting bored, I am empowered, I am focused, I am in the zone, as some say, and I have perfect timing in the background. Even when I'm not counting the time, things finish in proper place. And I saw as well that deep inside, and in many occasions, this deep sense of joy and happiness and just having fun is something that is driving me. A smile. Smile is something that I was putting on even unconsciously. And I was considering why not on daily basis, not on permanent basis. I found some guides as well. I found some tools as well that help me to just check what I need to do with myself. And one of those tools that explains why we are who we are and why we are so is this human condition. As you clearly see, all those key characteristics, key events that compose the essentials of human existence, including birth, learning, emotion, aspiration, conflict, and death, and considering as very broad topic that has been and continues to be pondered and analyzed from many perspectives, including those on anthropology, art, biology, history, literature, philosophy, psychology, and religion, this human condition is something that has been with us for ages. This underlying insecurity and psychosis that exists within every human, product of very deep anxiety and uncertainty of not knowing why, when the ideals of lives are so obviously to be cooperative, loving, and selfless, are humans so competitive, aggressive, and selfish? Often it's considered that our behavior is no different to that seen in animal kingdom. There are lots of theories in this aspect, that we humans are competitive, aggressive, selfish because of our animal heritage. What is highlighted in one of the books, Freedom, The End of Human Condition by Jeremy Griffin, is that additionally we have argued that we are victim of savage animal instincts that compel us to fight and compete for food, shelter, territory, and a mate, that we are at the mercy of biological need to reproduce our genes. Descriptions of human behavior, such as egocentric, arrogant, inspired, depressed, deluded, pessimistic, optimistic, artificial, hateful, cynical, mean, immoral, brilliant, guilt-ridden, evil, psychotic, neurotic, alienated, all recognize that involvement of our species' unique, fully conscious thinking mind, that there is a psychological dimension to our behavior. Humans have suffered not from genetic opportunist-based, non-psychological animal condition, but the conscious mind-based, psychologically troubled human condition, and maybe even more. So, to go and grab this human condition and do the section or do the deep dive on that, one of the first books that can land for you on certain stage is Power versus Force, The Anatomy of Consciousness by David Hawkins. This book is based on David Hawkins' experience and has this unimaginable benefits built in, to name a few, the ability to tell the truth from falsehood using the instrument way more advanced than human logic, Unveil of the main component that is related to human suffering, guilt, angers, fears, pains and struggles. Way to see where you are and what can you do to go into enjoying your life and refocusing from struggle to joyful being. This is the way to test if aspects of linear world based on Newtonian view will positively or negatively impact your integrity as human being experiencing this world. As well, this one contains a scaled map that provides exact spots for states, emotions, processes, and live view perspective. It has connectivity to great wisdom of the East. So I've split the whole webinar into two parts. This part will be about the questions you might ask just by those couple of general elements. What you can have as a question. So those questions like consciousness and map of consciousness. What is it? What is kinesiology? This one is important part of the book. What is calibration? Another one that is very key to what the output of the book is. What the levels mentioned in the book mean. Are those levels specific to single entity and what can be defined as entity? What is power? What is force? What can be calibrated to verify its level? As you see, usually the path to consciousness, the path to understanding this type of information, probably in all experiences, you are guided to some degree. You have your story, how you landed in certain aspect. For me, there were a couple of angles how I got here to ask the question, what is consciousness? For me, one of the elements was that I have security background, and this security background, after exploiting all those elements about threats, about taking risks, but mitigating them to the fullest degree possible, there was an ask, how can business work if your PC is turned off, because this is the most secure state? Some argue that even this state is not yet secure enough. So the other aspect was that security is not only by seeing threats but seeing opportunities. So how to combine both? Business is about taking risks. So business is in there to fulfill the objectives, to have risk appetite, and have this secure background, the quality, as we can say. Additionally, this context that I was driven by fear for a long time, fear of inability to do something, inability to invest, having this fear of not being enough for some purposes, fear on daily basis, fear of income, fear of job, all those fears. I saw that fear is not giving me the truth, because each and every time it got verified, it appeared that fear is not real. It's like some say fear is false events appear real. And there are some other ones, maybe not that nice. But additionally, this context of anger, I had those elements of angers that were stuck in me, and they got triggered in certain occasions automatically. And when they triggered, I saw them being triggered, but it was hard to stop them. It was then just observing. And this observing of thoughts as another element was something that one of the coaches highlighted. Okay, try to observe your thoughts. Try to observe your emotions. Another path was this Kriya Yoga meditation, which basically just started to show me this different aspect, this loving aspect, especially, on events where you meditate with masters. It's totally different experience. If you didn't have this experience before, try it, see it. See how loving you can be just after the event. Go out and check. It was like a bliss state, being loving to each and everyone unconditionally, which was like the state I was walking whole night to just have this feeling. So, and additionally, I created some connectivity already with human hero's journey and chakras, but the case was that it was not easy then to connect to something material, not easy to say, okay, where those people are on their levels, how to correlate chakras to consciousness, to state of someone. Additionally, the other angle was the spark in the power of intention, which then came out to be the power of the universe, and showing those characteristics of universe. And then, out of love to whole humanity, compassion to all human beings that are stuck in this identification of themselves only with body and mind, as this sole driver of their whole life journey. And last but not least, for those that are stuck in ego. And ego that is always hungry, always judging, and gives temporary satisfaction until next need. So what is consciousness? As highlighted by David Hawkins, consciousness is the unlimited, omnipresent, universal energy field, carrier wave, and reservoir of all information available in the universe. More importantly, it is the very essence and substrate of the capacity to know or experience. Even more critically, consciousness is the irreducible primary quality of all existence. And this sentence calibrates at 1000. Additionally, is this full spectrum of human condition aligned with human experience perspectives. And usually it's split for ordinary consciousness from levels from 1 to 600 and advanced states of enlightenment from levels 600 up to 1000, where those spiritual guides, usually as highlighted by David Hawkins, they should be around 570 to still be interested in ordinary things rather than those stages of enlightenment. What is the map of consciousness? So, the map of consciousness, as you can probably guess, is connected to doing this geography of man's experience. It's a map of classical stages of human inner evolution, self-development by capital S. It's a map of measurable attractor patterns and energy fields. It's free of dogma and clinically sophisticated in its depiction of emotional processes, view of God, view of self, and view of life through to each level of consciousness. So the map itself is split into two sections. One is power. One is force. This power element, as you see in here, has multiple levels in place. Those levels start at level 200, which is the level of courage, and go up through neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, and enlightenment by levels. But they have as well connected elements, connected emotions, connected processes, connected life views, connected God's view. So who is God? How God is perceived on this level? The The other one is force. As you see in here, those attributes, they go to level of courage from level of shame, blame, apathy, regret, anxiety, or even more, grief, fear, desire, anger, and pride, up to courage, with all those other emotions connected and processes related. So, how you can use this information? Because on all webinars, webinars usual target is to just provide you with information. But how can you use this information practically? Because listening to webinar might be boring, might seem long, might be or seem like over talked, but seeing a couple of things might give you some perspective of how you can use it. Like, try for this consciousness perspective, start observing your thoughts as daily exercise. Try to do it on permanent basis, or at least try to be aware of some moments where you observe those thoughts, where you check what thoughts popped in. Start to identify what emotions created those thoughts. That is, as well, finding this root emotion that usually provides lots of thoughts. So coping with emotions is much better than coping with all those thoughts. Observe what levels appear in your life. Out of those levels, what levels can you identify as the ones that you need to work on? Because all those levels, they are for you to work on them. Observe how release process works, like from fear through desire, anger, pride to courage. Does it work this way for you? If you work on fear, observe how perspective of love, loving, unconditional love, compassion changes those events that were reoccurring for you, and what changed, how they converted. Do they appear or they don't appear anymore? For kinesiology, so one of the important aspects of the book, because kinesiology is this mechanism that is used to assign those levels, it's interesting how this has been being uncovered. So out of those elements that happened before, I saw these exercises of some healers that use this pendulum to test if something is positive or something is negative or is beneficial or is not serving you. And additionally, I attended this Life Mastery by Tony Robbins, and in one of the sessions there was someone who showed that if you hold something near your solar plexus and you are standing firmly on 2 feet, then if it is positive, then you will lean forward. if it is negative, you instantly will go back. So for me it was interesting, but I didn't understand this perspective. It was one of the versions of kinesiology, but the kinesiology itself, as uncovered by David Hawkins in his Power versus Force, it's highlighted as the study of muscles and their movements, especially as applied to physical conditioning. It's from Greek kinesis, the movement, and logi, so the study about movement. It's well-established science already that is based on testing of an all or non-muscle response to stimuli, and the output is that positive stimulus provokes a strong muscle response. So if something is positive, it will be strong muscle response. So your muscles will hold whatever you are having, same as posture. Negative stimulus results in demonstrable weakening of test muscles. So you are leaning backward or you are nearly falling down. And this introduction of how kinesiology appeared, there were two key characters in the whole process. Dr. George Goodhart, the pioneer of applied kinesiology. So this benign physical stimuli, beneficial nutritional supplements, increase the strength of certain indicator muscles. So those supplements, they increase the strengths of certain indicator muscles. Harmful injurious stimuli, supplements in here, they made those indicator muscles suddenly weaken. At a level far below conceptual consciousness, the body knew, and through muscle testing was able to signal what was good and bad for it. Dr. Joy Diamond created new discipline, behavioral kinesiology, and went further. So this positive or negative response that occurs with stimuli, he highlighted is both physical and mental, anabolic, life enhancing, from catabolic, life consuming, is this split into positive and negative. True and false can be said from muscle testing. This phenomenon occurs independently of the test subject's own opinion or knowledge of the topic, and is cross-cultural and consistent throughout time. And how you can implement it, how you can do it on your own. Not to just sit and watch, you can try to test it. So verify some responses of your body on your own. Always test for higher good. It's always good to add for higher good in front before testing, because egoistic testing will fail most of the time. Use one hand to hold an object near your solar plexus. Use second hand fully straightened to hold a heavy object. For instance, Dr. Hawkins, 2-3 books is enough. Sometimes you can have something different. And test response by telling resist. If the second hand went down or is intact, so if it goes down, then it means it's negative, harmful. If it stays in place, it's positive and uplifting. You can do the verification with partner. One is holding the object. For instance, in left hand near solar plexus, having second arm straight. Second faces first one and puts one arm on their shoulder. And upon command resist, pushes the straight arm down with two fingers. The test response is same as in previous one. So down negative, firm in place, positive, uplifting. What is calibration? It's one of the elements highlighted by Dr. David Hawkins. Calibration is really setting those levels. And what brought me here to calibration? What brought me here to those levels? I thought about practical usage of human hero's journey, path of chakras, where the human hero's journey is connected to chakras as map of our human hero's journey. So those chakras from bottom to top, they are like those levels that we attend, those levels that we attain. And human hero's journey is this process, how this is worked on each level. Additionally, this ability to map chakra to specific level of human being self-development, this was another one, and search on how to connect this chakra malfunctioning blockages to where someone is. Looking additionally for reference how consciousness evolves, and looking for the full path of human hero's journey, because as well these levels of consciousness might be considered your full path of your human hero's journey throughout all those elements connected to force that you stored, and then to power level, to all those levels on power where you got rid of those elements that are blocking you. And what is this calibration from this perspective explained by David Hawkins is the process of calibrating the scale of consciousness using kinesiology technique. It's the logarithmic scale of whole numbers from 1 to 1000. What does it mean, logarithmic? It means that it is 10 to 1, 10 to 2, 10 to power of 3, power of 4, power of 5, 6, 7, 600, 1000. So even 1 point is significant. Degrees of power of all possible levels of human awareness is this calibration, method of allocation of tested object on scale of consciousness. So where you are, or where the test object is on the scale of consciousness. It's a way to test not only assignment to force versus power levels, but to specific levels of map of consciousness. The calibrated scale was found to coincide with sub-levels of hierarchy of perennial philosophy, correlations with emotional and intellectual phenomena in sociology, clinical psychology, psychoanalysis, traditional spirituality. The calibrated scale has been examined in light of current discoveries in advanced theoretical physics and non-linear dynamics of chaos theory. So what you can do to get here, how you can get some output out of it. So what you can do, you can test your response for experiences from the past, like love. Remind yourself situation where there was lots of love, events that happened. Remind yourself events that you needed to have courage to move forward, to have courage to take a decision. Remind yourself moments of joy when you felt them. Describe them with all your senses. Do the same for fear, anxiety, guilt, shame. Choose your own. Choose the ones that you have right now. You can even test your favorite drink or food. And the stimulants probably would test negatively, but context is important always. You can even test movie or a book. Stephen Hawkins has in this book, in Power versus Force, some of the calibration. In another one, Truth versus Falsehood, as well, there are some calibrations of movies. So while testing, this is quite important, give the very precise question in the precise context. For instance, you ask about coffee, but you ask about coffee in two different contexts. So, does this coffee improve the body condition? Yes, no. We're weak. No. Does this coffee improve my performance for short period of time? Yes. For short period of time. So if we already have those levels, what do those mean? And why this landed as well for me? So I was looking as well for practical mapping of chakras to some attributes that would highlight where someone is as human being. It's what I already highlighted. I was looking for key attributes. So chakras have lots of attributes. So what might be the key attributes that can be used to depict ideal client avatar for self-development? To see where someone is and where he would like to go. That was the basis in here. So what those mean? There are like two groups of those levels: power levels and force levels. Each level is associated with human consciousness, specific energy field, specific radiating frequency, has this logarithmic scale where level equals 10 to the when this level is basically the power of 10 to the power of this level. So the x is really a very big number if you just are increasing by one step. So increase of couple of points represents a major advance in power. It has perspective of God view, life view, emotion and process. As you see, again, this is this brilliant highlight of really how one can see the evolution of self, how one can see where he or she is right now, what might be the next steps, the steps that are in the direction of feeling more joy, more happiness, more love, feeling more fulfilled. And what all those levels mean in the context of power. In the context of power, levels equal and above to 200 calibrate as power. This level 200 is critical response point and is associated with courage. Those attitudes, thoughts, feelings, associations, entities, or historical figures that calibrate higher make subject go strong, so over 200. Levels above 200 represent strong attractors, positive influence, and the truth. Well-being of others becomes increasingly important in this power aspect. By level 500, happiness of others emerges as the essential motivating force. high 500s is characterized by interest in spiritual awareness for both oneself and others. 600 is good of mankind and search for enlightenment are the primary goals in here. 700 to 1000, life is dedicated to the salvation of all humanity. As highlighted by David Hawkins, the level 1000 is maximum human body can sustain. Jesus, Buddha, Krishna calibrated at this level while being in the physical body. The fourth aspect, this negative aspect, the dualism aspect of us as human being, is as well represented by those elements that you see in here. It's connected to all those levels that grow from level 20, shame, up to level 200, and the last one on this scale is pride. The pride is 175 and it's the last element of the force. 200 is already the next one. So levels below 200, they calibrate as force, as you see. Last level below 200 is associated with pride and contextualizes as the last level of ego dominated perspective before transition into spirit. Attitudes, thoughts, feelings, associations, entities, or historical figures that calibrate lower make subjects go weak. Levels below 200 represent weak attractors, negative influence, and falsehood. Primary driver is survival. For hopelessness and depression, even the motive is lacking, because in here these lowest levels sometimes don't even have a motive. Levels of fear and anger are characterized by egocentric impulses and personal survival. So, what you can do to get here, and what you can do to have some benefits. Main one is to observe how those levels evolve in your daily life. See what follows fear reaction and see how it gets discharged. Does it go through all the levels to courage, or maybe it's stuck in just the desire to go out of it, or anger when it gets touched? Observe and try to exchange all the negative energies with positive ones. You can try this exchange for joy, love, courage. Check which is your natural replacement that can be used intuitively in those situations. Check great beings that were calibrating above 700 like Mahatma Gandhi and see what was their impact versus pride calibration of the British Empire back then. So, are those levels specific to single entity? And what brought me here to ask as well this question? So I was stuck in a separated consciousness for a long time. Separated meaning that I was not identifying, as most of us probably, as part of this whole humanity, as part of this one humanity, oneness, allness. I didn't see the underlying oneness and allness for a long time. I was seeing some patterns that I can identify with, but treated them as unsolvable as they were specific to me. I didn't know how the loving, spiritual, encompassing layer enables experience of growth even from the lowest levels of consciousness. I had hunger to know where we are as human beings on planet Earth. And is this level really specific to single entity or not that really? These consciousness levels are reference point for type of energy that would tend to manifest on specific level. It will pull events that resonate with specific frequency by law of attraction. It might be the same for certain object type for all instances. It can be calculated for certain communities, belief systems, organizations as one entity or calculated individually for each member. It can be used to see if the goals are uplifting the company or are bringing it down. The entity can be defined and calibration performed in specific context. The entity can even be the whole humanity. So what might be the good exercise for you to test it out? You can try to test some organizations using kinesiology techniques highlighted earlier. You can try to test some key figures in those organizations, then check the narration that those figures are providing. What is the main angle that they are starting from? Is it the force aspect, so fear, guilt, anger, pride, or the power aspect? They are loving ideal clients, they want to serve, they are being uplifting role models and leaders. So, additionally, what is the power itself? What brought me here as human being? So, there were a couple of elements that landed me in just consciousness about power. One of them, maybe one of the key ones, was this Kriya Yoga meditation. The experience not only of the meditation on daily basis, but the experience of being together, being in front of the master that was uplifting with his own energy. This hunger for spirituality was another aspect for me. Maybe even before both of those, it was following of Jesus Christ, but on much deeper level than just being part of belief system. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know more closely what was the message, the original message of what Jesus Christ shared. I was open for blessings. It was love for my family and trying to solve the elements that I was stuck at to bring even more love to them. Loving other human beings and wanting to protect them from manipulations of their minds, aiming at finding the level above the consciousness I'm at all the time on permanent basis, just asking, what's higher, what's higher, what's higher. And what is the power as highlighted by David Hawkins? The power arises from meaning. So it has motive, it has principle. It's always associated with that which supports the significance of life itself, appeals to that which uplifts, dignifies, and ennobles. It energizes, it gives forth, it supplies, it supports. It's associated with whole, gives life and energy. It stands still. It's total and complete, requires nothing from outside of itself, no demands, no needs. It's associated with compassion and feeling positive. All men are equal by virtue of divinity of their creation. Human rights are intrinsic to human creation. therefore inalienable. Declaration of Independence. So what you can do to get here, to see what might be the power from your perspective, you can observe how energized you are if you are doing activities out of love and compassion. You can convert single day at work to start with joy and enthusiasm and see how the day would go. You can take one of your fears and courageously take a step to question the cause, the root cause, and take action to move out. Take situation where you previously exploded with anger and switch the anger with joyful laughter and see how pressure goes out. Do a guided meditation, for instance by Sadhguru, by Deepak Chopra, and see how much pressure got released and how much more distance you have to yourself, to others, how more understanding you are. And force, this context of force. So what brought me to this force aspect? It was this constant struggle with anger that it was automated. Sometimes it converted into guilt and shame, seeing how fear was blocking me from taking simple decisions, feeling stuck in pattern-driven reactions to external stimuli. Belief system reliance on bringing down to sense of guilt and judge the life events of me and others, being judgmental about behavior of others and of myself. So what is force from what David Hawkins is highlighting? So force must always be justified, is associated with partial, so not the wholeness, automatically creates counter force, is limited by definition, is the movement against opposition. It's intrinsically incomplete, it has to be fed with energy. It constantly consumes, takes away life and energy. It's associated with judgmentalism. And how you can see it from your perspective, you can see how those negative thoughts that appear make you feel. Even after you are well slept, you had your night properly regenerated, you are waking up with high energy, you are ready to go, and you observe how fear and anger lock you in a cage of inability to act. You observe how often you receive opportunities to release the stuck energy, because this loving universe will give you opportunities to get rid of these energies that are stuck. See how you are holding your head. It's one of the easiest measurements. Looking forward or looking on the eye level, with eyes wide open, armed with peripheral vision to see even more beauty of this world, or seeing the floor and admiring the sidewalk as the most interesting view during the day. Test yourself, check yourself, which one you prefer. Do you prefer looking downwards, or you prefer looking just in front, just admiring this whole perspective? Observe those emotions that originated the thoughts, because observing the thoughts might be bit energy consuming. It's lots of thoughts that appear. but all those thoughts usually are connected to emotion. Just try to observe this emotion. Can you link them back to some events in the past? Those emotions that appear. What can be calibrated to verify its level? And how I got here, it was trying to establish those attributes of ideal client avatar for self-development and trying to find the logical connection points. Some events that happen seem to be associated with certain repeated circumstances. I show that some people are attracting both certain other people, but certain object and events. Some people mostly positive, some mostly negative. And in this sentence, it means that some people are attracting people of certain type, of certain being, and additionally certain objects, as you can see. and what can be calibrated really? Calibration can be performed to any object. One of the most important aspects that you should consider is not to attach egoistic elements to the result. Will I benefit setting this transaction in this way? What gains I will have doing that, etc. Ask questions out of place of love and compassion, and you will get the proper results. So what you can do to test it out on your own. Try to test calibration of any aspect with "in the name of higher good" context. Check if you resonate with objects you are surrounded with. Observe the mental state you are at. If you identify being driven by force, test things that you relate to, are proud of, are angry at, or have fear of. If you passed the level of courage, see how opportunity driven you became. See how many actions didn't have logical explanation, but you picked them up and started to act with mission in mind. So let me introduce you to the part 2 of the webinar that I will have in some time, and those are the aspects that we will highlight. Those aspects are something around the questions you could ask if you dig deeper inside the book. So what is truth? What is falsehood? Can those levels depict state the humanity is in right now? What was the previous calibrated level of humanity? Are we all calibrating the same? What is source of power? Who can do the calibration? And is the result of any tester the same? Would me calibrating at certain level mean that I will attract alike? How to use those levels in daily life? Is there a space for ego? Are there any sample calibrations? Are there any good sources of knowledge about the map and kinesiology? For today, thank you very much. It was great pleasure for me to just deliver this great book that David Hawkins provided to us as humanity, this great resource to reassure you, me, all of us, that we are much beyond just the body and mind. We are this consciousness that is observing what is happening and always has a choice, always has more power than this talkative mind tries to tell us and tries to settle us on. You have much more power than you think. Stop thinking, use the power. It might be a good solution. Stop thinking. Start enjoying life. Stop grabbing those thoughts one by one, especially the ones that bring you down. Pick the uplifting ones. Only you have the choice. No one else. You have the choice on daily basis. If you introduce the uplifting thoughts, you will end up with your life fulfilled. You will end up in joy, in happiness, in love, and you will attract alike. Do you prefer to be surrounded by love? Do you prefer to be surrounded by joy? Start to be in love, joy, peace with yourself and others. Thank you very much. Have a great evening and see you next time. Bye.